Hello, I am Matthew Sales's, the author of The 100-Year Flood and other books, and I'm going to read today from a forthcoming book called The Murder of the Doppelgänger. One night in bed in my bare bedroom, my girlfriend asked what was wrong with me, and I tried to explain. I told her how I would black out as I watched the news, ate my microwave dinner, wrote. When I woke, my status update would be a string of G's with no likes, nothing to account for the time between. I feel like I'm disappearing, I said. Maybe I have been for a while. It was 3 in the morning after Sarah's late shift waiting tables at the cave. She smelled like fry oil and strangers. The smell stuck to her skin. We lay on top of my black sheets between my white walls. I knew she understood me. We had a connection when we were naked. How long have you been feeling like this? She asked. Well, my cat was dead. At some point in the last 3 years, I had stopped going out or having friends. My wife and daughter had left me. It had started sometime after the divorce then. You felt like disappearing the whole time you've been with me? She asked. Or maybe the only reason I'm still here, I said, is you. I felt quite smart about this line. She twitched her lips from side to side. She was always doing things equally on either side of her body. I envied this habit. When her lips parted, the smack echoed off the empty walls. The echo comforted me. It was a kind of company. Today I went to the butcher shop for bulgogi, I tried to explain. I thought I would cook something for once. I was standing in line, thinking about how to tell the guy to slice it, and he served every person there, and then every new person who came in. He didn't even see me. Sarah stared at a burn on her finger, which she had gotten from work that day. Tonight, she said, one white boy pinched my ass, and another tried to put his tip in my apron string. I would settle for no bulgogi. The room spun, probably from alcohol. I lay back and covered my eyes with my arm. After a while, I said, my daughter walked into the shop with her mom. They didn't look at me either. I'm trying to tell you something, she said. I waited. You're in a rough patch, she said coldly. You'll get out of it. That wasn't it, though. I waited for her to go on. When she didn't, I filed the misconnection away. Someday would be how we would search for each other. This was a world of misconnections. Was I supposed to look on the bright side, I wondered. I had given this thought some thought. After all, in the scheme of things, disappearance was literally no thing. I was 36, and I was dating, and I was still alive. My body worked, even if my left foot was slightly bigger than my right. I paid $1,600 a month to rent the first floor of a duplex in a quaint Boston suburb. It could be worse, etc. Also, my agent called, I said. She couldn't sell my novel. You were right. I shouldn't have quit my job. Sarah shook her head and her long black hair fell over her eyes like a ghost. Don't blame me, she said. You're depressed. Why were other people always telling me what I was? Once Sarah left, clacking her black nails against the doorframe for luck, I showered and put on my purple tracksuit. I used to wear it for my daughter because she said it made me look cool. I'm at my desk in the purple office that used to be my daughter's bedroom. I felt closer to Charlotte when the act of writing in her old room produced familiar regret. The combination of writing and regret was a little like time travel. From my desk, I texted Sarah that I promised to love her better in the future. I had to figure out how to do that. I knew love. I knew better. Somehow the combination of those two words stumped me. Before she got dressed, Sandra had said, You're not disappearing. You're choosing not to be present. I mulled this over. I rested my fingers on the keyboard. The keys were hot, as if someone with a lot of excess body heat had just been typing. My fingertips were hot. Maybe I was hot. I wondered what my agent wanted, what kind of book people would buy. I pinched my nose and blew to relieve the pressure. The chair poked into my spine, though nothing stuck out of it. A note taped to my desk said to buy a new chair. I decided to write a new novel. All I needed was 3,000 words a day for a month, 10,000 words a day for a week. I'd just make something weird happen. muffled my mouth with my hands and screamed for a while into them. Then I coughed until I could breathe again. In the failed novel, a straight, cis-able Korean American guy woke, drank coffee, made toast, hacked into his company's website, devoured his butter and egg sandwich with 4 lactose pills, took notes to protect his company from other hackers, microwaved his dinner, watched the news as he dined, slept dreamlessly again and again, and all the while desperately wanted a better life. He was at an age of dwindling options, where each choice he made limited the choices he had left. But when at last only one option remained, his desire vanished. It was the extent of what he could be. I was still at my desk, massaging the sore spots on my back and thinking about my options, when my computer shut down. Something crashed in the apartment upstairs. The floor swayed. The photo of my ex-family danced off the wood. When I reached for it, my hand didn't go where I intended it to go. I couldn't make intention into action. My head seemed to float on liquid, and yet I was more aware of the ground than I had ever been. It was always in motion. I'd only just noticed. I hugged my knees to my chest and squeezed my eyes shut, and I pictured Charlotte in her bedroom across town. She yanked a blanket over her head, or was she in school by now, huddled under her desk? When had the sun come up? Either way, I couldn't go to her. This was how I disappeared. When the floor returned to normal, I stopped, paused, stomped a few times more. I rubbed the soles of my bare feet on the hardwood. Then I shuffled out to the TV to hear another human voice. The news never mentioned an earthquake. On the news, pundits discussed a presidential candidate who refused to denounce the KKK. One of the pundits said he'd never condoned them either. How did you know where people stood? My phone got no emergency alert. No one seemed to have noticed the earth move. I Googled earthquake, Boston, but all I learned was that tremors in the greater metropolitan transit area are more frequent than people think. Usually they're too small to be felt. I remembered an article about people who vacation wherever they think the next big one will hit. Did they hope the earth would eat them? Did they hope to find new earth? I cracked the front door and the same old earth eked in through the opening. No minotaur slammed its horns into the house. No hand descended from the sky. No wolf huffed. The world was as disappointing as ever. The older white couple across the street caressed each other on their porch, with their terrier barking at their feet. I called over to ask whether they had felt anything, and they ignored me. They were your typical neighbors. In the kitchen, I corkscrewed a bottle of Chardonnay, and I drank a quarter, and then another quarter, and then another quarter until I felt less tired. I tried to keep myself awake, aware. I shook the bottle, and the liquid inside it shook. With each sip, the bottle lightened, its weight proportionate to the wine I hadn't drunk. Consumption was lightness. I took the wine back to my office and lifted the photo of my ex-family back onto my desk. As always, in the photo, Charlotte chewed her brown hair and clung to her mother's sea green skirt. As always, I wiped my thumbprints off the glass with my thumb. The next time, I would have to do it again. I drank the last quarter of wine, and I wrote 3,000 words about the earth shaking a person's sense of himself. It wasn't until I returned to the living room, with the empty bottle in hand and the cardboard box behind the sofa staring back at me, that I realized why I kept walking around. In that box were toys my daughter had wanted that I never got the chance to give her. I had bought them, one by one, over the past 3 years. It occurred to me now that the line earthquakes make between the past and the present is called a fault. I knelt, and the flatwood dug into my knees, which still remember the many pews after my parents died. My adoptive parents had not been the kind of Catholics who went to Mass out of hope. They based their beliefs on an hour per week of corrective behavior. I had based mine on wanting to be loved. They had adopted me, and then they taught me what it was like to be adopted, and then I left for college, and they stopped talking to me, and then I got married, and then Jennifer and I had a child, and then I could never tell what my family wanted from me, and then the divorce happened, and then my wife and daughter moved to another house and asked me to leave them alone. Soon I am going to disappear. How to explain? Maybe it started one Saturday 6 years ago when I woke Charlotte early and we drove out to farmland to stargaze. It was clear to me then that the reason the stars awed us was that some had already burned out and we didn't know which. Since light takes time to reach us, the stars we saw were those stars as they shone years earlier. The sun we see is the sun 8 minutes and 20 seconds earlier. No matter how close I got to my daughter, she would always see me as I used to be, and the instant she perceived me, I was already someone else. These were my actual thoughts when I opened the box and found that inside was nothing. The toys were completely gone. At first, I didn't think disappearance, I thought theft. Why toys, I wondered, and not the TV or piano or computer? But the longer the box yawned open, empty, the more I wanted to step into its mouth. Thank you.